Well, here we are. Hi, this is Randy, your neighborhood Indian medicine man. No, just your friendly neighborhood medicine. No, neighborhood spider man. That's what it is. That's right. Anyway, we're here at Stink Lake.
Stink Lake.
Or Bitter Lake, actually, is what it means.
Okay.
Is bitter. And a couple of reasons for that. One of the plants here has kind of got a peppery taste to it, which is peppery, bitter. And I think I want to thank the Nature Conservancy, Moses Coulee Nature Conservancy, because they keep this off limits to people. And it's through their better graces that I feel comfortable coming up here. They welcome me. They extend their generous invitation for me to come up whenever I need a break from living in the big city of Wenatchi, the dangerous streets of Chelan County.
You're a city slicker.
And so I love coming up. And plus, you know, if you haven't gathered by now, Moses Coulee is one, if not my favorite spot on the face of the earth. And this will give you an idea why. It is so calming. You hear the winds here a little, but generally it's pretty calm here. This little lake has for thousands and thousands of years, for over 600 generations, been occupied by my people. They have utilized this area. Ancient times, the Molot and that little gap up there. It was a sheep drive. The Molot, and it was a sheep drive where they would funnel the mountain sheep down through it to be dispatched at the bottom. They would hit a wall and a fence that old-time people built there to trap them, to stop them. Then the hunters and the women folks just loved it. That was their job, to go out there and slaughter. Natural-born killers. Actually, great providers. And they had a seasonal camp that would come up here to basically to harvest the many foods that are in here in the coulee. This protected them from the winds and stuff on the bottom floor.
Oh, it is protected. My goodness.
And hear those birds.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
It's like another world right in here.
It is. This is the land that time forgot. This is Edgar Rice Burroughs. As a kid, I would sit here with my grandparents after gathering tules out here for them, and Grandma and them would sort the tules to make our lodges out of,
yep,
to make our mats out of. And again, the same people that seemed to be my tormentors, dementors, mentors. You learned a lot just listening to them, and you were expected to listen. And they would talk, Auntie Lucy would talk, and Grandma, about their old-timers stories, their first ancestors, and how they lived here, and why they lived here. And I think it's a question that always arises, that my grandfather used to always pose. Why do you think the people were here? Why were we here? Why do you think they were here? Sorry, this is the gift that we gave the Shoyepis, tobacco.
Yeah.
Coyote gave to us. Why do you think the people were here is a question that my granddad would always ask me, wherever we were at. And I told him, well, it's pretty. And he'd go, well, you can't eat pretty. And again, this was your supermarket, it was your drugstore, it was your hardware store. You got materials for construction,
Yes.
food, and medicines all here. And then they would burn it off to make sure that the land was kept open for a lot of different food plants. A lot of where we were at today is a good example of what it probably looked like most of the time. And from the rocks, they got pigments. The women folks would have their kids go up and scrape off the pigments and then bring it back to them. Not an easy task, but as a kid, you're much more light-footed, a little more nimble, and you recovered from the falls that you would take.
Yeah.
So they would gather the paints here for the women folks. Women were in charge of paints. Only women knew that power, had that knowledge. And so women painted, men pecked, men made petroglyphs, women did paintings on the rocks and on the rawhide, on their possessions. And so this is one of the places they gathered the materials. Here we have wonderful plant. You know it as greasewood. Mm-hmm. You don't find it very far north of here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not in the Coulee for sure. Greasewood. It's a wonderful plant. They use the thicker heartwoods to make their needles. Hard needles. As a kid, I'd run around. Up on the reservation, we have greasewood. And Mom had a Jeep. I don't know how many times we flattened the tires. This stuff is so hard that when it breaks off, it's deadly. It will impale your tire. It does not give. But greasewood is both a medicine, a tool making. It was used for 4 shafts. 4 shafts were the small shaft that held the arrow points or the projectile points. And they would harvest greasewood from here to make 4 shafts, the men folks. They would make 4 shafts for their salmon spears. And you're going, well, where would they fish at? Well, not here, but our people were very mobile and would go to, they were on the Columbia. This was only a seasonal area. Behind you, you got coyote currants, which we harvested. Coyote currants.
So what season would they be here?
Right now through till, let's say, around mid-June.
Okay.
A lot of the men folks would already be down on the Columbia fishing. Part of the bands would come up here, like the Moses Columbia people, the Wenatchi people. They would gather here. Oh, I don't know. Not for a long, they wouldn't overstay. At one time, probably in the ancient times, they were probably here for most of the year.
Okay.
In and around here.
Uh-huh.
And so you'll find their, what do you say, evidence of them. Old pit ovens over here.
Oh, really?
And where they bake the cattail roots, where they bake the camas, or the biscuit root, the lamatiums, and where they also fire-treated stone. It's amazing that you would think that they would have to fire-treat something that was born of fire.
Right.
But they did. It released the tension in the stone. Sometimes your stone has got too much tension, too much internal pressure pushing out. Mm-hmm. So you heat treat it so that you can work the stone. And where did the stone come from? Well, we're walking over there. We won't be able to see any because it's dangerous, especially when you got an old stroke brain like mine that's already struck out a couple times. You don't want to be trying to climb around and
Right.
navigate
Yeah.
through the fields of basalt bedrock. You got to watch out because badgers have booby trapped the area. But they're also aerating the soil.
Yes, they are. So, like, I don't know, 100 years ago or 200 years ago, was there an annual pattern with the seasons?
Which are what?
Was there an annual pattern with the seasons? We're in here from now till midsummer, and then we're down all at the Columbia, and then we're all up in the highlands.
Yes,
in the
exactly.
winter or something.
Yes, we were. Our world was a circle of cycles, and I think some families really looked forward to being here and being Badger Mountain, being down on the river. Their world, their calendar,
Yeah.
was already filled with where they were going to be during this moon, the next moon.
Wow. Yeah.
And atop some of these mesas, there are rock alignments, calendars that are fixed to the stars.
Here.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Did we go down to Rock Island to the wedge there? Another dewdrop in.
Another day.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, look around here. See the walls? That gave them their protection from the winds. Also works as a fire break. And so you can imagine all the sagebrush missing from this.
Right.
And what you'd have would be a flatland of bunch grasses, fescues, because they burned it periodically every 2 years, 3 years. And now I can just imagine, by looking at this soil, looking at this ground, there was a lot of, what do I say, manufacturing of stone implements here.
By looking at the soil.
Well, I'll show you. We'll come across some. See? Pick that up. What do you have?
A little rock chip. It's been worked.
Jasper.
Jasper.
Yep, heat-treated jasper. Now I tell people, okay, put it back where you found it. That's what Grandpa always had me do. One of the reasons I am very glad that they have this off limits.
Yeah, this is gated. This is.
Yes. Oop.
So the jasper is this.
All around here, look.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere. So they're working with a former sandstone bed that got welded between these lava flows.
Okay.
I think so.
You're a geologist. Yes,
Yeah.
you can make that statement. Yeah, that was, we have some petrified wood in here that we find. We find opalized wood, jasper, peridot, and It's between the layers up here
Between the layers, it makes sense to me.
that they would quarry out.
And so this area was perhaps known for craftsmen who could work with, this kind of material, because it's just not right in here. These layers between are going throughout central Washington.
Yes. What is that? That's nothing, is it? No, that's nothing. That's a bit of nothing.
That's a leverite.
Leverite there, yes. Leverite where you found it.
They're all leverites if we really think about it.
So I just impress upon younger people when we're out here. Pick it up. Tell them who you are. That's the way my grand folks would have us do. You talk to it. You're talking to the spirit of your old time people.
I see.
Your ancestors. Tell them who you are. Tell them who your grandparents were, because there's a connection here.
Well, I don't belong here.
Well, you know what? Walk softly. That's all. Just, you got the right shoes. You just walk softly. Okay. Now we're coming to spall from the lava beds, basalt beds, broken basalt. This was removed from over there. This was part of the wall that they had built. The wall in which the sheep would be blocked when they were driven down.
Are you kidding me? This is essentially an archaeological wall.
Remnants of the wall. The wall was over there.
Oh my goodness.
And sheep, mule deer, pronghorn antelope, they were all driven in the same manner. And jackrabbits. Thousands and thousands of jackrabbits through here at one time. And the young people would have jackrabbit drives in which they would do the same thing. They would force them down, and then they would come to the wall, and on top of the wall there was net that they made out of Indian hemp. Much like your salmon nets, your gill nets, except they would hit it, and then the net would fall on top of them, and then the women folks would go out and dispatch them. What we're walking on right now is part of the wall that was, you can see the road comes down.
Yes.
That road was actually probably created by taking an old deer trail and widening it out using this rock, or that rock up there. And you figure, probably not like the Great Wall of China that was built by hundreds of thousands of laborers. This was done over a succession of 1,000 years or more.
I mean, I'm just stunned by this.
It's quite a place. It's very special. Here we have Great Basin wild rye, some of their basketry material, the beautiful corn husk bags that you see in museums and at powwows, people dancing with them, were originally made out of wild rye because there was no corn husk. We didn't have corn. Not here, at least. And the reason I suspected that these seams, see this right here, that's a cairn, a rock cairn. Cairns were used a lot of times for hunting blinds. There are depressions that are hollowed out by removing the rock, the rubble, the spall, and then they would set themselves in there to surprise the deer. Surprise, you got an arrow in you. Here's more of the stone. Now this was probably taken from, this might have actually been right here, part of the wall. It becomes more and more obvious when we get down here.
Well, I don't want to overstate it, Randy, but like this is a wall that's far older than from the days of the Romans.
Well, I'll put it this way. 4,000 years before the pyramids of Giza, this was a thriving community. Continually occupied.
Continually occupied.
For 9,000 years. Protected. See, there's one of the seams, the layers.
Yeah.
Well, they would seek those out all around, throughout the coulee. And you had specialists within the tribe who were tool makers, who would go after, who would seek out, they would have their young men always aware and alert of where this stone came from. They would return and quarry it out, pry it out, break it out, and bring it back in workable chunks, or to be traded. A lot of places you don't have the same materials, and so stone was the raw material behind everything in a Stone Age culture. Get that? Very sophisticated Stone Age culture. You know that Columbia River points are some of the most valuable, sought-after points in the world. They sure were to our people. We didn't care about obsidian. That to us was such an inferior stone.
Wow.
Because it shattered like glass. This stuff is hardness 7, 8.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't so prone to shattering when you looked at it.
Yeah.
And so people are saying, well, you don't find very much obsidian around here. Did you guys not trade for it? Why? Why would we want it?
Mm-hmm.
It was given to us a lot of times, and we valued the gift from the people from the south, from Oregon, through the trade routes, or from the people from the north, from Blackcomb and Whistler, where you have obsidian.
Mm-hmm.
Here I am rambling off at my mouth. I better be aware of what we're approaching here. Here's the beginning of the trench. And this was, you imagine it, this was the wall that came up probably about this high.
Okay.
And then the nets on poles were perched so that everything coming down, jumping down, would try to lunge across the ditch here and hit the fence, and it would fall on top of them.
Oh, wow. Ingenious.
Very. You know, it was like minimal labor, maximum return.
Yep.
Here's another beautiful little limation, Pongkao. If you didn't have to dig halfway to China, it's worth it. So, again, you can see the layout as it went around. It went all the way over to that ledge. And as a kid, this was all fun. It's like no great, you know, in urban areas, a used car lot or a junkyard lot, that is a place of exploration for anybody who's under 40 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, this was the parallel to it for us. And as a kid, I just loved going over there. And in the seam there, I would find everything that a kid's mind and heart. Lizards, snakes, some agate, chalcedony, pretty stones, pretty rocks. So I'd come back with my pocket up here, my Oshkosh Bagosh pocket full of rock. See, that's that trade route.
That's straight route from Fox River Valley in Wisconsin. Yeah.
Yes, you got it. You know the place, don't you?
Yeah.
Every kid I know is so proud of their Oshkosh new pockets to fill.
There you go.
And my grandmother and granddad, they were so aware of the fact that I was probably hauling home something alive in my pockets, that they would wait for me at the door with a basin, little wash basin that was in front of every house's door. That's where you washed up when you came back from working. That's where you washed up, left your dirt there. Well, my grandma would always take that and she'd just hit me in the stomach with it. Then I'd have to dump out the contents. You got some real prizes here today. She'd tell me, box of rocks is what they should call you, not kayahan. My first name as a child was Intitiana. He don't hear. He don't listen. He don't mind. I was a full-time job for people around me. See, there's a good shot of one of the seams.
Yep.
But like I said, I am thankful that this is off limits. The Nature Conservancy has thought it important enough to us to protect it, which they have. This is still a big wintering ground for a mule deer. You come through here, coming up from the road, you'll encounter upwards to 200 deer in the sagebrush. That's one of the things that brought them here, was the fact that they knew where they could find the deer. Yeah, I try not to step on too many toes when it comes to tribal knowledge, because there are people out here who are saying, oh my God, you're selling our stories. I've never received payment for coming out here. And then my brother says, what? They're not paying you to do that? I said, you can't have it both ways. If I got payment for it, it's like Indian doctors, medicine men. They don't get paid. They refuse money, especially. They work because they help because they're called upon. And I personally think it's important for everybody to know things, some things, because without that knowledge, it's too easy to destroy something. So when we all have a vested interest in a place, it's more apt to be protected. A good example was a place up the Methow that I had filmed and shown my niece Crystal the place. We call it Little Village. And we went on record on that. And right now there's an outcry by people. You're not supposed to be showing those places. Well, a few months later, there's a guy out there clearing it off to subdivide for houses on the Methow. His neighbor called and ratted him out. So we called the tribe and DAP, Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation, and shut him down. And he was, reprimanded for it. But it stopped it. Had they not known the importance of that, he would have gotten away with that. So I think it's vital to share some of this information so that people can always look out for these special places. I mean, look at that view right there. That's like the $1 million view. Would you not like to have a place right here looking at that? Even a place to just come and camp. That's what we're saying, is that we need to maintain and protect these special places because it recharges your heart and your soul.
Are the people in your community who say you shouldn't be sharing those places starting to see the follow-through on...
Yeah, but they'll never admit they're wrong. And I don't expect them. I wouldn't expect it of them.
That sounds familiar. That's human nature.
Yes, it is. And it's a guy thing more.
Yep.
And you know what? That's okay. It's all good. I'm glad there are gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Because it does keep people a little more on edge about going into places.
Well,
I'm sure that you in your tours and your trips also have that same sense. Am I bringing too many people into here? Am I exposing too many people who will want to come and take a part of it back with them, or worse yet, move on to it, find a way of building on it?
Well, I had the feeling yesterday afternoon in Drumheller Channels.
The Drumheller is a great example. I'm so glad that that's protected.
Yes.
I'm glad that I wish the whole entire Crab Creek drainage had that protection, because that is the most fantastic wetlands.
It is.
And that was Chief Moses's one of his favorite spots was the potholes.
Right there in Drumheller.
He had one of his major villages at Moses Lake. Because there they got duck eggs, ducks, geese, everything on that flyway.
Yeah.
Well, here is just a microcosm of it. Everything has a carrying capacity.
Yeah.
Moses Coulee had its carrying capacity. And I think the old-time people realized that. So there was never a lot of people out here. It was quite frequented, but it wasn't a lot of people. Not coming to stay and tame. A wild people generally don't tame anything. It kind of rubs against their grain.